to another Warhammer 40,000 Horus Heresy Battle Report brought to you by the Legion Wargaming. Under the guidance of the immortal Emperor of mankind, the Great Crusade carves a bloody path across the stars. Upon countless worlds, the Imperium's greatest warriors, the Primarchs and their Legiones Astartes, are unleashed, reclaiming humanity's birthright to rule the galaxy. And today, we are on the world of 43722, this being the 22nd world brought to compliance by the 437th Expeditionary Fleet, a relatively small expedition under the command of Lord Commander Damar Ral, probing the mostly deserted reaches of the Segmentum Tempestus and claiming the worlds there for the Imperium. And this planet's compliance has been completed, as Imperial forces found no indigenous population, much to the irritation of the small contingent of Astartes attached to this fleet, for they are the sons of the Lord of the Red Sands, warriors of the 12th Legion. But compliance is at risk already, as a fleet of ramshackle Ork warships enters the system. Although the Lord Commander would be content to allow his Imperial Army troopers to break the greenskins upon their newly constructed bunker strongpoints, the World Eaters have a different plan. The battle today is 2,500 points, World Eaters versus Orks. The mission is Onslaught with Clash of the Line deployment. Let's take a look at the armies. This Ork army is 2,500 points, and as we are doing a Horus Heresy scenario today, these Orks are using the Battles in the Age of Darkness Crusade Force Organisation chart, which is quite similar to the Force Organisation chart for a combined arms attachment, but allows the Orks to take an extra HQ choice, which they haven't done, and an extra Elites choice, which they have. This force contains 2 HQs. The army's warlord is an Ork warboss. He just has a power claw, and the second HQ is a pain boy mounted on an Ork warbike. The first of the 4 Elites choices is a mob of Nob warbikers. They all have power claws and, as usual, are looking very dangerous. We have a small unit of Ork commandos led by a Nob with a power claw. 2 of these commandos have burners, and we have a lot more burners. 10 of them, in fact, mounted in a truck as the third choice, and the final elite slot is filled by a mob of 10 tank busters. They are led by a Nob with a boss pole and a power claw. One of the tank busters has a tank hammer, and they also have 3 bomb carrying grots. For troops, we have 2 choices. The first is a mob of 30 slugger boys. They are led by a Nob with a boss pole and a power claw, and the second troop choice is a mob of 20 shooter boys. They are led by a Nob with a boss pole and a power claw. Moving on to fast attack, we have a mob of 20 storm boys. They're led by a Nob with a boss pole and a power claw. We have 5 Deathcopters. They all have twin-linked rocket launchers, and we have a small mob of 3 Ork warbikers. They're led by a Nob with a power claw. For heavy support, we have a mob of 12 looters, 5 killer cans. 3 of them have rocket launchers, 2 have custom mega blasters, and finally we have some mech guns, a battery of 5 custom mega cannon providing some fire support. As usual, there are a lot of Orks. Will they be able to overcome the ferocity of the 12th Legion? Let's take a look at the World Eaters. This 2,500 point World Eaters army comprises a single Battles in the Age of Darkness Crusade Force Organisation chart, and today the World Eaters are using their unique Rite of War Berserker Assault. They have a single HQ choice, who is a Delegatus Consul. He is equipped with lightning claws, and he has brought along 3 Elites choices. The first is a squad of 5 Cataphracti Terminators. They have a Reaper autocannon, 2 Combi Plasmas, 2 pairs of lightning claws, 2 power fists and a chain fist. They are mounted in a Land Raider Phobos. The second elite choice is an Apothecarian detachment comprising 2 apothecaries who will be joining the tactical squads, and the final elite choice is a Contemptor Dreadnought Talon. We have 1 Contemptor with twin Kerry's assault cannons and a Havoc missile rack, and the second Contemptor has 2 power fists, both equipped with heavy flamers, and he also has a Havoc missile rack. For this detachment's troops choices, we have a World Eaters assault squad. They all have chain axes. They are led by a sergeant with a power fist. And then we have 2 tactical squads. Both are 16 strong, and all of these Marines are equipped with bolt pistols and chain axes. We have a single fast attack choice, which is a squad of 5 rampagers. They are equipped with their Kaido weaponry. They are mounted in a Land Raider Phobos, and 3 heavy support choices. The first is a Deimos Baton Predator with a Predator cannon and sponson heavy bolters. We have a heavy support squad with 5 autocannon, and finally another Deimos Pattern Predator. It has a heavy conversion beamer and las cannon sponsons. And as this is during the Great Crusade before Isfahan 5, the World Eaters will be using bloodlust rather than blood madness, and of course they have incarnate violence as well. These World Eaters are gunning their chain axes. They cannot wait to carve a bloody path through the Orc horde as we move into deployment. And the armies have deployed using the staged deployment method for the Onslaught mission, starting with the Orcs. Although it must be said the Orcs deployment was less about tactics and more about simply trying to cram their entire army into this clash of the line deployment zone. Starting on their right flank, we have the Deathcopters. They've already scouted forward, skimming low over these bunkers. Behind them we've got the Looters taking up firing positions on this rocky outcrop and in the gully. Then we have the Knob War Bikers and the Killer Cans. They have formed up behind the Orcs' Grand Battery of custom mega cannon. They have formed a firing line in the wake of the Green Tide. 30 Slugger Boys right at the edge of the Orc deployment zone, and moving through these landing pads and bunkers we have the Shooter Boys, who have been joined by the Orc War Boss. The Tank Busters have taken up position on the roof of this bunker, and behind them the Storm Boys are preparing to trigger their rocket packs and leap forwards. Then we have the Burners in their truck, and finally on the far left we have the Orc War Bikers. Meanwhile, the stealthy Orc Commandos have crept forward. They are hiding behind this rocky outcrop, and the World Eaters are also running forwards. Right at the edge of their deployment zone we have both tactical squads, who have been joined by Apothecaries. Moving up behind them we have the Contemptor Dreadnought Talon. On the left we have the Terminators in their Land Raider. Meanwhile, the Rampagers, having been joined by the Delegatus, have scouted forward in their Land Raider, and on the far left we have the Deimos Pattern Predator with a heavy conversion beamer, trying to get as long a range as possible for its deadly main weapon. Over on the right, on top of this landing pad, we have the Heavy Support Marines with their autocannon, and the Assault Squad are forming up behind them, ready to jump forwards. On the far right we have the other Deimos Predator. And the objectives have been placed. Each side gets to place an objective in the opposing deployment zone. If they can hold it at the end of the battle, it's worth 5 victory points, and both sides have given a clear declaration of intent. The Orcs have placed their objective right here in the centre point of the World Eaters deployment zone, and the World Eaters have responded by placing their objective right at the edge of the Orc deployment zone. It looks like this is going to be a frontal assault, which is going to be very bloody and brutal. There are also other victory points available for onslaught attack. Any enemy unit destroyed in the first game turn is worth a victory point. There is also Slay the Warlord and attrition, which means whichever side destroys the highest number of enemy units gets a bonus victory point. As the Orcs deployed first, they have the first turn, so unless the World Eaters can seize initiative, we go into Orks turn 1. With the World Eaters failing to seize the initiative, the Orcs have completed their first movement phase, and their centre is surging forward, led by the Slugger Boys, while the Shooter Boys, accompanied by the Orc War Boss, are moving over the top of this landing pad, and the Tank Busters are advancing from their bunker as well. The Met Guns have held position. They are preparing to fire, and the rest of the Orcs are swinging wide on both flanks. The Deathcopters have moved up. They are followed by the Knob War Bikers. Meanwhile, the Killer Cans are stomping up in support past the Looters, who have held position preparing for their first volley of fire. On the other flank, the Ork Warbikers are moving forwards. They are followed by the burners in their truck, and the Storm Boys have decided just to advance on foot for the time being. Meanwhile, despite having moved through cover, the Commandos only managed 2 inches, so they have shuffled a bit but are not advancing just yet. With no Psykers on either side, there will be no psychic phases during this battle. We move straight into Orc shooting phase turn 1. End of Orc shooting phase turn 1, and feeling this is exactly the sort of battle that suits them, the Orcs in the centre are continuing to surge forward. The big mob of Slugger Boys, they have run forward 6 inches. They are already entering this compound in the centre of the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Shooter Boys have also run. They are beginning to move down from the landing pad. To their left, the Tank Busters are running forwards, trying to bring their rocket launchers into range, and on the left flank, both the Ork Warbikers and the burners in their truck have moved flat out. The Storm Boys have run forward as well, only 2 inches, and the Commandos seem to be struggling. They only managed to run 1 inch. They are going nowhere fast. Over on the right flank, both the Deathcopters and the Knob Bikers have moved flat out. They have not sustained any damage despite having to take many dangerous terrain checks, and the Killer Cans are trying to skirt round this battery of Met guns, but they have only managed to run 1 inch. The Met guns opened fire, and they started well. Only one of them overheated and is not damaged, but their accuracy was abysmal. They only managed to take out 1 World Eater from one tactical squad and 2 from the other. Their shots really did scatter all over the place, and more disappointment for the Orcs as the Looters found that only the first 3 of them were in range. They nevertheless opened fire with a hail of shots. They caused 3 wounds, but the World Eater's power armour protected them and none fell. That is a disappointing first volley of fire from the Orcs. They were hoping for a lot more casualties from the Met gun battery. And with no assaults, that brings Orks turn 1 to a close. They have failed to get any points for Onslaught attack, but they are moving in strength up the centre of the battlefield. Let's see what the World Eaters do going into World Eaters turn 1. End of World Eaters movement phase turn 1, and if the Orcs want a frontal assault, that suits the World Eaters just fine. Both of their tactical squads in the centre are moving up as quickly as possible, supported by the 2 Contemptors. The Assault Marines have leapt up and over the heavy support squad with their auto cannon landing in these rocky gullies. The heavy support squad themselves have held position. They are preparing to give fire, and this Predator has rumbled forward to bring these Ork Warbikers into its sights. Between the fire of the Predator and these Marines with autocannon, the World Eaters are hoping to wipe out the Warbikers and earn a point for Onslaught attack. Over on the left flank, the Rampagers have moved forward at combat speed in their Land Raider. They are preparing to give fire, and the Terminators have caught up. They have moved cruising speed from their position. They want to get to grips with the Orcs as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the Predator is calibrating its heavy conversion beamer. It has not moved. Let's see what the World Eaters can do in their first shooting phase. End of World Eaters shooting phase turn 1, and over on their right flank, the Deimos Predator opened fire on the Ork Warbikers, but the Orcs jinked, and as they turbo boosted in their previous turn, they had a 3+ cover save. The firepower of the Predator had no effect. Although the heavy support squad fared better, they managed to cut down both of the Ork Warbikers, and that was enough to make their Knob turn tail and run, doubtless being jeered by the Storm Boys as he does so. In the centre, the Assault Marines, both tactical squads and both Contemptors have run forwards. They cannot wait to deal with the Orcs in bloody close assault. The Deimos Predator with the heavy conversion beamer managed to atomise a single Met gun and 1 Grot crewman, and 2 more Grots were cut down as the Land Raiders opened fire, but these big guns must be dug in very well as the Grots made lots and lots of cover saves. That brings Turn 1 to a close, and neither side have managed to get any points for Onslaught attack. It seems that both the Orks and the World Eaters want to settle this in close assault as we go into Orks Turn 2. End of Orks movement phase turn 2, and their mighty battle cry echoes across this battlefield. They have declared their war, and it looks like they are looking to carve straight through the World Eater's centre. This large mob of slugger boys, they're moving forwards. They want supporting fire from the mech guns and the looters, who have both held position to thin out this tactical squad before they run and then charge. Meanwhile, the Knob Bikers have cut in. They have come roaring out of the bunker complex. They want to charge into this tactical squad. Meanwhile, it looks like the Deathcopters have begun their attack run, and their target is the Deimos Predator with the heavy conversion beamer. The Killer Cans are struggling to make their way through this terrain. It's going to take them a long time to catch up, it seems. Meanwhile, the Shooter Boys are continuing to advance, as are the Tank Busters. Some of their rockets are now in range of the Assault Marines, and it looks like the Commandos are finally ready to strike. They are moving forwards with their burners. The Orks are going to target these Assault Marines with quite a lot of firepower this turn, it seems. The burners continue to move up in their truck, and the Storm Boys have leapt forward, although one of them did manage to kill himself by landing awkwardly in this terrain, and their jeering has obviously done the trick, as this knob of the Warbikers has rallied. The Orks are really looking to inflict a critical blow this turn. Let's see how they get on. Orks shooting phase turn 2. End of Orks shooting phase turn 2, and it has been a much better performance from the Orks. The Commandos unleashed their burners upon the World Eaters' Assault Marines, burning 3 of them to a crisp, and another was taken out by a wildly corkscrewing rocket launched by the Tank Busters. The burners in their truck have moved flat out. The Shooter Boys have run, and so have the Storm Boys. They are desperately trying to catch up to get into the thick of the action. The Mech Guns' run of bad luck continues, as the 10 hits they got on this tactical squad only managed to fell 2 Marines. The Twin rolls were abysmal, but 1 more Marine was taken out from long range fire by the looters. These Killer Cans continue to struggle. They have only run an inch, but in the centre, these Slugger Boys have poured into the gap left by the fallen World Eaters. They are preparing to charge. The Knob Bikers unleashed a thunderous volley of fire from their Dakka guns, managing to cut down 3 World Eaters from this tactical squad as they prepare to charge. And the Deathcopters launched all of their rockets at this Predator. They managed a single penetrating hit, which has shaken the Astartes tank. The Orks are happy with their performance in the shooting phase, except for the mech guns. They are very much looking forward to the next phase, Orks Assault phase turn 2. End of Orks Assault phase turn 2, and carnage has been brought to this world. The Commandos thought to follow up on their success in the shooting phase by charging into the Assault Marines, only to find the World Eaters ready for them. All 4 Commandos were cut down by the World Eaters' chain axes. It was only the Knob left. He challenged the Sergeant of the Assault Marines. He felled him and 2 more of the World Eaters, but with his dying breath, the Sergeant backhanded the Knob into oblivion with his power fist. In the centre, this mob of sluggers poured into the World Eaters with an 11-inch charge, but once again the Astartes were ready, butchering 15 of the Orks with their chain axes. The Orks then piled in and managed to drag down 7 World Eaters, but the Slugger Boys lost the combat by a long way. They needed double ones to stay. They failed, but the Ork Knob smashed 1 Ork over the head, and thanks to mob rule, this combat is ongoing. But the worst news of the turn for the Orks is the Knob Bikers' destruction. They charged into this World Eaters tactical squad. They managed to run down 1 Astartes with their Hammer of Wrath, and then 5 of the Knob Bikers were pulled from their war bikes and butchered by the World Eaters' chain axes. The lone surviving Knob and The Pain Boy managed to take out 3 World Eaters, but they lost the combat by 7. They tried to flee and the World Eaters tore them to pieces. That is a shocking result. This World Eaters tactical squad made butchering the Knob Warbikers look very, very easy, thanks to hatred and thanks to incarnate violence along with their chain axes. The only other act of the phase was the Deathcopters failing their charge against the Predator, but the Orks are not happy. They were optimistic going into that phase. Perhaps they underestimated the sheer ferocity of the 12th Legion. Let's see what the World Eaters do in their second turn. End of World Eaters movement phase turn 2, and the heavy support squad on the landing pad have held position to give fire. So has the Deimos Predator on this flank. Meanwhile, the 3 surviving assault marines have ignored the ramshackle truck. They have leapt over it. They have their sights set on the shooter boys, and it looks like this victorious tactical squad, fresh from butchering the Knob Bikers, is also advancing to try and charge them. This tactical squad remain locked in combat with the Slugger boys. The 2 Contemptors look to be moving up in support, and this Contemptor is spooling up its Kerry's assault cannons, getting ready to unleash them. Meanwhile, the 2 Land Raiders containing the Delegatus, the Rampagers and the Terminators look like they are doing something very unusual for World Eaters. They are actually remembering the mission objective. They have both moved at cruising speed. They are moving towards this objective, which is worth 5 victory points. Meanwhile, it looks like the World Eaters are content to abandon this Deimos Predator to its fate. It is shaken, so its firepower is not going to be very useful this turn, and with the Deathcopters circling, it doesn't look like it's going to survive very long. We go into World Eaters shooting phase turn 2. End of World Eaters shooting phase turn 2, and a hail of high caliber rounds from this heavy support squad with autocannon managed to penetrate this truck 3 times, and 1 of their shots must have detonated the fuel tank as the truck exploded, taking out 3 of the burners and surprisingly scything down 2 of the assault marines with shrapnel as well. There is only 1 survivor, and the burners have passed morale. They are not pinned. The Deimos Predator opened fire on the Storm Boys, managing to wound the Knob and cut down 2 more Orks. But this mob appear to be unconcerned. The last surviving assault marine managed to take out 1 shooter with a hurled crack grenade, and another 6 were cut down in a volley from this Contemptor's twin Kerrys. These World Eaters decided to open fire with their bolt pistols, but had no effect. This Contemptor has not fired. It wants to charge in to help out these tactical marines in this combat against the Sluggers. The other Predator, firing snapshots at the Deathcopters, achieved nothing. It did not get any hits. Meanwhile, the 2 Land Raiders, in another surprising move, have moved flat out. It looks like they intend to drive straight into the Orks support lines. Let's see if these World Eaters can make their charge and what happens in this ongoing assault. World Eaters assault phase turn 2. End of World Eaters assault phase turn 2, and the lone assault marine successfully made his charge into the shooter boys, wading through a hail of Overwatch fire. But he found himself on his own as this tactical squad in the centre failed their charge. He, surprisingly, did not manage to take out a single Ork before he was overrun and torn to pieces. The shooter boys have consolidated, but bad news for the Orks in the centre as the Contemptor made its charge thanks to Fleet and hammered into the side of the Slugger boys. It managed to tear 3 Orks to pieces with its power fists, and the remaining World Eaters felled another 4. In return, the Slugger boys pulled apart another 2 of the Astartes, but in the challenge between the Knob and the Apothecary, neither could hurt the other. The Knob only got 1 hit and rolled a 1 to wound. It proved too much for the Orks. They tried to flee and were run down, although it must be said this tactical squad has been badly mauled. There is only 2 Marines and the Apothecary left. That brings World Eaters turn 2 to a close. They are certainly closing in on their objective. They have inflicted a lot of damage on the Orks in the centre, but there are still a lot of Orks bellowing and rushing forwards as we go into Orks turn 3. End of Orcs movement phase, turn 3, and suddenly these World Eaters in the centre are looking very vulnerable as the War Boss bellows at all his remaining boys to press home their attack. We have the Burners advancing, and the War Boss with the Shooter Boys, and the Storm Boys are also leaping forward, as is the last Warbiker. He is the knob with the Power Claw. The Tank Busters are moving over this landing pad. Looks like they may have a go at knocking out some of the Astartes heavy armour. The Killer Cans are finally making good progress through the bunkers. They may well be a last line of defence to stop the World Eaters seizing this objective. The Met Guns are preparing to open fire again, as are the Looters. Meanwhile, the Death Copters are moving in to finally finish off this Deimos pattern Predator as we go into Orcs shooting phase, turn 3. End of Orc shooting phase, turn 3, and realising that they only had a couple of shots at the nearest Land Raider, the Tank Busters decided to run across the landing pad, but they only rolled a 1. Meanwhile, the Killer Cans opened fire on the Land Raider, but unsurprisingly had no effect. The Looters combined their fire with the Met Guns and the Shooter Boys, and the Orcs have achieved a breakthrough in the centre. They have wiped out one of the tactical squads and their Apothecary as well. That has left a hole in the Astartes lines. This knob on his warbike has moved flat out, and the Storm Boys have run forwards. The Burners unleashed a wall of flame over this tactical squad, but were disappointed. Despite getting 11 hits, only 1 Marine fell, and the last tactical Marine and the Apothecary refused to fall back. And right over the far end of the battlefield, the Death Copters had a disappointing round of fire. They only managed to inflict a single glancing hit on this Predator, but they intend to finish it off in the assault phase. Orcs assault phase, turn 3. End of Orcs assault phase, turn 3, and the Burners decided not to charge into these last 2 World Eaters. They know that if the World Eaters try to charge them, they can unleash their Burners and incinerate them. So there was only 1 assault as the Death Copters dived into this Predator. They have finally wrecked it. That brings Orks turn 3 to a close. The Orks are happy with their performance this turn. They feel they have come back into this game very strongly indeed. How will the World Eaters respond? We shall see in World Eaters turn 3. End of World Eaters movement phase, turn 3, and lacking targets, this Deimos Predator has begun to rumble up this rocky outcrop, trying to bring its weapons to bear on this huge mass of Orcs. Fortunately, the heavy support squad can already see them very clearly and is preparing to open fire. In the centre, the Contemptors have decided to take this matter in hand. They are advancing towards the War Boss and his Shooter Boys. This Contemptor has 2 heavy flamers. That could hurt the Orcs badly, especially when followed up by the twin Kerry's assault cannons of the other Contemptor. The 2 surviving World Eaters, this Tactical Marine and the Apothecary, they are moving. They are going to add a charge where they think it is most appropriate, but there are a lot of Orcs closing in on them. Meanwhile, the Delegatus and the Rampagers have deployed as their Land Raider crashes up this rocky rise. They have scaled this landing pad. It looks like the Tank Busters are going to get more than they bargained for. The Gadafracti have not disembarked from their Land Raider. They want to try to take out the Killer Cans with their twin-link las cannon before they put themselves at risk. And that is about it. The World Eaters have taken a lot of damage. There don't seem to be too many of them left, but they are still very, very dangerous. Let's see what they do in World Eater shooting phase, turn 3. End of World Eater shooting phase, turn 3, and the 12th Legion have hit back very hard indeed. The Predator managed to cut down 3 Burners with a volley from its Predator cannon, and another one was taken out by a crack grenade hurled by the last Tactical Marine. But the 3 remaining Orcs in this mob have passed morale. 2 Storm Boys were cut down by fire from the heavy support squad's autocannon, but it was in the centre where the Orcs have taken a real battering. This Contemptor unleashed its heavy flamers, incinerating 6 Orcs, and then its Havoc missiles took out another 3. Then another 3 went down to this Contemptor's volley of Havoc missiles. That left only the Knob and the War Boss and the Kerry's assault cannons. tore them both to pieces with an overwhelming volley of fire. That is Slay the Warlord, and that has gutted the Orks assault in the centre. Meanwhile, the two Land Raiders combine their fire. This Land Raider firing both of its twin-link las cannon at the killer cans, and this Land Raider firing one Sponson twin-link las cannon. They managed to detonate the first killer can and wreck the second. That has put the Orks badly on the back foot in this sector of the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Delegatus and his Rampagers, they're not shooting, they are concentrating on making their charge, and that could be carnage for the tank busters as we go into World Eaters Assault Phase Turn 3. End of World Eaters Assault Phase Turn 3, and the last Tactical Marine and the Apothecary decided to charge in against the Burners, and the Wall of Death has taken out the last Tactical Marine, but the Apothecary completed the charge on his own, and with two swings of his chain axe decapitated two of the Burners. The sole surviving Burner could do no damage to him and turned to flee, but the Apothecary contemptuously shot him down with his bolt pistol. Meanwhile, the Delegatus led the Rampagers into the tank busters. The two Rampagers with Meteor hammers took out 4 Orks, and in the challenge between the Delegatus and the Ork Nob, the Delegatus not only took out the Ork Nob but 2 more tank busters as well. That left only 3 Orks remaining, and this Rampager with his twin Phalanx blades took all 3 of them down. The Orks did not get to make a single attack, and nor for that matter did the 2 Rampagers with excoriator chain axes. That was utter carnage on the landing pad, and it brings World Eaters Turn 3 to a close. There's no doubt about it. The Orks are reeling. Will they be able to strike back? Let's see. Orks Turn 4. End of Orks movement phase turn 4, and the Orks have no scoring units left. All of their troops have been destroyed, and that means they will not be able to get 5 points for claiming this objective. And that means they're going to have to do 3 things in order to achieve victory. They're going to have to, firstly, stop the World Eaters from securing their objective. Second, they are going to have to take out the World Eaters Warlord to offset the fact that the Astartes have taken out their war boss. And third, they are going to have to claim the bonus point for attrition by destroying more units than the World Eaters, and the Orks have set about achieving it. The Deathcopters are moving in at high speed to try and take out this Contemptor with their twin-link rocket launchers. The Storm Boys are leaping towards this Contemptor. The Nob is hoping that his boys can distract the Dreadnought for long enough for him to take it out with his Power Claw. This Nob on his warbike is moving to run down this lone Apothecary, and the Ork gun line is going to target the Delegatus and his Rampagers. We've got the Met guns, and we've also got the Looters. Meanwhile, the Killer Cans are finally making good progress through these bunkers. They want to move in to deny this objective to the World Eaters in future turns, but they are wary. The Cataphracti Terminators are still in this Land Raider. Let's see how the Ork plan goes in Ork Shooting Phase Turn 4. End of Ork Shooting Phase Turn 4, and the Deathcopters managed to get a single glance and a single penetrating hit. On the Contemptor, it only has 1 hull point remaining, and it is shaken. Meanwhile, this Nob failed to gun down the Apothecary with his twin-link Daka gun. He's going to have to follow it up with a charge. The Storm Boys have nothing that can hurt the Contemptor at range. They are preparing to charge. Meanwhile, the Delegatus and his Rampagers have come through a storm of fire relatively unscathed. The Met guns were disappointing once again. 2 of them overheated, and the other 2 were woefully inaccurate, but 1 Rampager was shot down in a volley of fire from the Looters. Meanwhile, the Killer Cans are running forwards. They're trying to get as near to this objective as possible, but the Terminators may well come spilling out of the Land Raider. We shall see. The Orks were disappointed with that phase. The Delegatus and his Rampagers are laughing contemptuously. Let's see if the Storm Boys and this Nob on his warbike can do any better. Orks Assault Phase Turn 4. End of Orks Assault Phase Turn 4, and the Nob on his warbike charged into the Apothecary. He has been wounded by the Apothecary's chain axe, but in the end his Power Claw tore the World Eater to pieces. Meanwhile, the Storm Boys charge into this Contemptor. 4 of the Orks were incinerated by the twin heavy flamers, and another 3 were torn apart by the Contemptor's mighty power fists. But that did give the Nob the opportunity he needed. He managed to get a single penetrating hit which has immobilised the Contemptor Dreadnought, and although his boys wanted to fall back, once again mob rule has kept them in the fight. Now this Contemptor is immobilised. Surely these Orks will be able to finish it off, and that is the end of the Orks' 4th turn. It could have gone better, but it has gone okay. Let's see what the World Eaters can do in their 4th turn. World Eaters, turn 4. End of World Eaters movement phase, turn 4, and as the Delegatus leads his rampagers against some very worried looking Gretchen artillery crew, the Cataphractii Terminators have finally deployed from their Land Raider. The World Eaters are hoping that the combined fire of the 2 Land Raiders and the 2 Combi Plasmas and the Reaper autocannon will be enough to deal with the killer cans, and of course the Cataphractii have implacable advance, so they are now holding this objective. The Contemptor in the centre obviously still remains locked in combat. He's immobilised anyway. This Contemptor is firing snapshots, but he's hoping the vast volume of fire put out by his Kerry's assault cannons can still take the last wound of this Ork Nob on his war bike. Meanwhile, the heavy support squad with their autocannon and this Deimos pattern Predator are preparing to take on the Deathcopters with a hail of autocannon fire. The World Eaters do seem to have the advantage in this battle. Let's see if they can put in a good shooting phase. World Eaters shooting phase, turn 4. End of World Eaters shooting phase, turn 4, and this Contemptor only managed 1 wounding hit on the Nob Warbiker with his Kerry's assault cannons, and the Ork managed to jink it. So the Predator decided to add the fire of its Predator cannon, which was enough to take down the Ork with a hail of shells. That's another unit wiped out for the World Eaters. Meanwhile, the heavy support squad targeted the Deathcopters with a volley from their autocannons. The Orks decided to jink, and it was just as well, as 2 Deathcopters went down anyway. It would have been 4 if they hadn't, in a highly effective volley of fire. But bad news for the Orks. The 3 surviving Ork pilots have decided to cut and run. They are falling back. Meanwhile, the Cataphractii opened fire. They managed to wreck 1 killer can with their Combi Plasmas, although their Reaper autocannon did not manage to do any damage, and the combined fire of the 2 Land Raiders managed to wreck another killer can. There is only 1 left, but he is still a threat to the Terminators. But the World Eaters are still feeling pretty good about the situation. We have this ongoing assault, and we also have another charge from the Rampagers in World Eaters assault phase, turn 4. End of World Eaters assault phase, turn 4, and when the Delegatus and the Rampagers successfully made their charge into the Met guns, the Gretchen crew stood no chance. They have been wiped out, and the Rampagers are consolidating towards the Looters. Meanwhile, in the centre, the Stormboy Nob has managed to destroy this Contemptor Dreadnought. The Contemptor only managed to take out a single Stormboy before the Nob used his power claw to tear open his armoured shell, but his reactor went critical, and the resulting explosion took out 3 Stormboys. But at least the Orks have finally destroyed that Dreadnought, and that brings World Eaters turn 4 to a close. Things are not looking good for the Orks. They only have these Stormboys in the centre, these Deathcopters who are fleeing, a single killer can, and of course the Looters. They are lagging a long way behind. Let's see if they can come up with any cunning plans in Orks turn 5. End of Orks movement phase, turn 5, and the Orks realise they have no choice. They must get these Cataphractii Terminators off of this objective. So the Stormboy Nob and his 3 remaining boys have leapt from this compound towards the Terminators. He has a power claw, and 4 Orks still have a lot of attacks. Maybe they'll be able to do something. The lone surviving killer can is also stomping forward to take on the Terminators, and unfortunately for the Orks, these Deathcopters have failed to rally, but they are still falling back, and they can give fire, snap shooting with their twin linked rockets at the Terminators as well. The Looters may well need to add their fire onto the Cataphracti. If not, they may target the Rampagers and the Delegatus. The Orcs still need Slay the Warlord as well. It looks like they are going to struggle to achieve attrition, but we shall see. Orcs shooting phase, turn 5. End of Orcs shooting phase, turn 5, and it seems that the luck is just not with the greenskins today. The Cataphracti Terminator's armour saved them from a wound from the sluggers of the Storm Boys and a rocket hit from the fleeing Deathcopters. It also saved them from a wounding hit from the custom Mega Blaster on the Killer Can, but when the looters managed to get 15 wounding hits, the Orcs thought at least some Terminators may go down, but 15 saves and not a single one. These Terminators are looking indestructible. Let's see if the Orcs can perform better in their assault phase. They really need to. Orcs assault phase, turn 5. End of Orcs assault phase, turn 5, and both the Storm Boys and the Killer Can successfully made their charges into the Cataphracti, but the Cataphracti Sergeant stepped forward challenging the Storm Boy Knob and easily gutted him with his lightning claws before he could swing his power claw. Meanwhile, the Storm Boys could do nothing against the mighty Cataphracti plate, and nor could the Killer Can, although it got 2 wounding hits. The Terminators made both of their 4+ invulnerable saves, and then 2 Terminators tore the Killer Can to pieces, and the other 2 took out the last 3 Storm Boys. That has brought Orks Turn 5 to a close, and it looks like there is no way back into this battle for the Orcs now. They have failed to shift these Terminators from this objective, and crucially, they failed to achieve Slay the Warlord. They are also not going to get attrition. They have only destroyed 5 World Eaters units. The World Eaters have now destroyed 14 Orc units. And these fleeing Deathcopters are not going to get a chance to move in and deny the Terminators. This objective, they have to deal with both aggression from the Terminators and of course a volley of fire coming in from the Predator and the heavy support Marines with autocannons and even this Contemptor. Meanwhile, the Looters, they will have to face the fire of the Land Raiders, and of course the Delegatus is leading his Rampagers forward towards them still. So we are calling this game. The Orcs just cannot get enough victory points now. The final score is 5 points to the World Eaters for holding this objective, +1 for Slay the Warlord, +1 for attrition. Unfortunately for the Orcs, they have failed to score a single victory point. The World Eaters are victorious, but the Orcs have inflicted a huge amount of damage on the Astartes. When all of the boys were pouring into this central compound, they massacred all of the tactical Marines and the Apothecaries. They've destroyed the Contemptor. It looked like the Orcs early on may even have the advantage, although the World Eaters gave an early warning of how dangerous they are when they massacred the Knob Bikers, which took the Orcs by surprise. But these World Eaters are just so deadly in assault, with incarnate violence and hatred granted by the Berserker Assault Rite of War combined with chain axes makes them one of the most deadly close assault armies in 30k or 40k, as the Orcs have found out to their cost today. The World Eaters may have taken a lot of casualties, but that has never bothered them. They are victorious. This world is compliant once more. The Orcs have been slaughtered. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and we will keep producing as many Warhammer 40,000 and Horus Heresy battle reports as we can. See ya.